There are a few considerations for all sectors of the economy. Whenever there's private ownership in a sector, there needs to be strong antitrust laws in place and robust enforcement of those laws. This is because when you have private ownership, the incentive is for firms to get larger and larger, because any sector that includes private for-profit ownership tends towards monopoly. For this reason, any sector that includes private ownership needs to be closely watched. The government agency that looks after this needs to be independent from the government of the day. It must have the teeth to monitor and enforce anti-competitive laws. It must also have a secure source of funding that can't be taken away by a business-friendly government of the day. One way to do this is to have the funding of the agency enacted within the Constitution as a percentage of government budget. This is just one of several ways that funding can be secured. The important thing to remember is that any agency that is enforcing competition within a sector will become a target by business interests that seek to become monopolies. So any agency regulating any part of the economy needs to be guarded against capture. It must maintain its independence, and this must be ensured probably within the constitution of the country. A mixed economy is fine within many sectors, but any sector that includes private ownership or even cooperative ownership needs strong regulation to ensure that monopolies or oligopolies don't arise, because these harm everyone in society. Staff appointments must also be independent of the government of the day, because this is another avenue through which the agency could be captured. Appointments cannot be made by politicians of the day or influenced by industry, and the people who fill the positions can't come from the private sector, because this introduces the problem of the revolving door that we talked about in the previous series about the separation of corporation and state. Another consideration, this is quite important in the long term, is that our education curriculum needs to be changed so that we teach the risks of private ownership leading to monopoly. The education curriculum must include repeated lessons at different years regarding the justifications and consequences of having different types of ownership in different sectors of the economy. These lessons must include historic examples of market failures and contemporary case studies to explain why it's so important that some sectors be publicly owned while it's fine for other sectors to be privately owned. Incorporating these lessons into our education systems is essential to avoid repeating the same mistakes again in the future. It's important to safeguard our economies from takeover by private profit-seeking interests that want to establish monopolies or extract excess profits at the expense of public well-being. So we need strong antitrust laws, an independent agency to enforce them, the structure of that agency embedded within the Constitution, an education curriculum that teaches us about the dangers of private ownership, but the benefits of private ownership in some sectors. These changes will help us avoid current mistakes and set up a society that is better for everyone.